So the Hellcat swap Miata, that's all done, that's all good, everything went really well, and they just picked up the car Tuesday afternoon. Now Thursday afternoon I have the next project coming in, meaning today, Wednesday, and the first half of Thursday I have a little bit of time to get ahead of the game and start working on some stuff for an LS Miata.
And now you're watching the BYOB, especially in the Dominican Republic channel of YouTube. Welcome to Bodie Vision.
Hey, so what is up and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me on another video. So like I said, we got a little bit of time today in the first half of tomorrow and I want to get ahead of the game. So this stuff right here, this is all for Taylor Ray. We have those two rear or over fenders, quarter fenders, whatever you want to call it. This fender right here, and then a wing, and I'm gonna have to do all of this stuff, that same exact BMW jet black, and then gold mixed in with the clear, and then another layer of clear on top of that. So we got this fender, that fender, all that stuff, the wing over here, and then this other fender right here. I got this started a little bit yesterday, but I didn't get too far, so I guess the only thing to do, I'm gonna start sanding 220 and then we'll get into primer, and this stuff is just kind of quick. It's a little more laid back. These are just spare parts. These are just spare parts. These are just spare parts for Taylor, and he's not at all picky. So let's just get right into it. These fenders, they're a little rough. Well, they're a little more rough than a little rough, but that's all good. So as you can see right here, there's a little mud on them, a couple dings here, a couple dings there. And now these fenders, again, they're just spares for Taylor. And when he dropped them off, he said, don't worry about doing any body work. Don't even worry about it whatsoever. Just get them sanded down, spray them, and they'll look fine, because they're just gonna go on his car in case it gets completely crashed, and they'll be better than a crashed one. That's what the purpose of these spares are. But I want to spend a little bit of time. I figured while I'm here, I can do what I can and just spend a little time. You know, I'm gonna mix up some more filler, try to smooth over some of those dents, and then get them ready to go into primer. And then eventually that BMW jet black base coat, the gold flake, everything like I was just saying. And we're already moving, we're already making some good progress, and let's keep it going. So one thing that I learned with body filler is your little tools right here, they kind of become a mess, but if you don't wait too long and you wait just long enough, you can actually get them to the point where they're still kind of a little bit flexible. And if you can see this, just go like that and it'll peel right off. And there you go, nice and clean, not a big dry mess. And for this, I just do the same thing, little razor blade right here, get that right off. And there. So there you go, nice and clean, ready for the next time, and you're not gonna have to spend a whole bunch of time grinding it off because it didn't get too hard, and you're ready to go. Now the fenders are sanded down and prepped as much as they're gonna be. They're looking a lot better than they were before. Put a little bit more up there, straighten it out. And then also over there, we're looking pretty good. So the main reason why I started off with the fenders is because I'm gonna be priming the fenders. I'm not gonna be priming the other parts. One, because they're fiberglass, and two, because they're new from wherever he bought them. So So as I'm getting this primer going, this primer is going to be drying, and then I'm going to turn my attention to these other parts over here. So let's go ahead, lay down that primer, and hopefully it looks good. Alright, so primer looks like primer. I mean, there's nothing too special about it. Just gonna make sure you lay it down as smooth as possible. The smoother you lay it, the less you're gonna have to sand it later on. And I laid it down pretty smooth, so I don't know if you can tell, but it's raining pretty good over here. I pulled Pepto back in because I don't like her sitting out in the rain. And also, these parts that I'm painting, they're owned by Taylor Wright. And if you guys are familiar with Taylor, you know that he's a pretty good drifter. So all this rain got me thinking, man, I'm trying to drift something, you know? You know, that definitely wasn't as cool as I was hoping or thinking that it would have been. Right now it is raining way too bad for me to, well, it's not raining too bad for me to do anything, but we're at a certain point where this audio is probably really sucky, and tomorrow, as soon as I get it, I just say sucky? Is that a suck? Anyways, tomorrow, as soon as I get in here, I'm just gonna go ahead and go for it. We got the wing, we got the over fenders, and we got the front fenders ready to go. We're gonna get going with the base coat, clear coat. We're gonna knock it out. I'll see you in the morning. Alright, so here we go. It's the next day now. I have everything all set up and ready to go. As you can see, right here we got the over fenders. And one thing that I want to keep in mind with these is this top edge. I want to have this top edge fully exposed because you're going to see that when you're looking at the car. So I want to make sure I get paint all in here. This bottom edge, I'm going to do it as best I can, but that's definitely not as important as the top edge. So that's just something I want to think about as I'm laying my stuff out to paint. Fenders, they'll be all good. I'm just gonna have them the same exact way I primed them. And also the wing, I like to hang it just like this. That way I can get the top side. This is the important side because that's all visible. And then under here, and I also gotta focus and make sure I get that bottom edge there. And another thing, one thing that I always want to consider with my setup not being a professional booth is dust is always a factor. So a lot of the times when I have a hood, for example, and I'm hanging it up, I don't like to sit it flat even though the paint will flow out a little bit better. I like to hang it up and have this surface away from all the dust because the air is going that way and coming this way. And with the air flowing in that direction, there's lesser of a chance for dust to land on my piece. And that's exactly why I have the wing hanging this way. This is the important side, so there's going to be no dust on there. If there's going to be any dust on it, it's going to be on the bottom. So let's go ahead and get that black base coat mixed up, laid down, and then I'll get into the flake a little bit. This is what we're using, and this is what we actually used on his car. This is just a bunch of it that I had left over. This stuff goes a long way. So what this is right here, this is just SEM Mini Gold 06014 is the part number from SEM. And then if you can see, it's just like this, really fine, cool flakes. So what I'm gonna do, well, you have a couple different options when you're working with flake. One, you can do the base coat, then you can mix flakes into a base coat binder, which is just basically a clear base coat, and then you could do clear coat on top of that. And that's what a lot of people do when they're getting into really high detailed paint jobs. That's what I did when I did his roof, and I had layer and layer of silver flake and gold flake and all of the flakes. That's what I used. But for this process, I'm just gonna do the first layer of clear coat. I'm gonna mix that right into it, and then I'm gonna do 2 layers of clear coat on top of that. That way none of the flakes come to the surface. They can be buried with those last 2 layers of clear, and then it'll look really good. And that's exactly what I did on his car. so we are definitely looking good. This is something that I have done before, so I kind of knew what to expect going into it. Really wanted to make sure all the parts were clean, nice and prepped really well. And also this flake, the good thing about it is it does hide a lot of the imperfections, which it's not a good mindset to have, but it's also kind of nice to sit back and say, you know I didn't take as much time as I could have on this little area, but you can't find that at all because the flake just fills it all in. So as you can see, it is looking solid, looking really cool. Any pointers that I can give you? I can't think of any right now. So I was hoping to have this car done before this weekend, before Lone Star Drift for Taylor, so that way he can go out there with a little different look. But unfortunately, with the amount of time that I had and the Hellcat Swap Miata and all this other stuff going on, this is the only amount of time that I had, and they're done. But he's packing and busy and everything, so he's probably not gonna come pick them up very soon. So what I have coming up is a car that on YouTube, in my opinion, is the most famous Integra, probably one of the most famous creators for Honda content, and just an overall very great, humble guy. If you don't know by now, wait a second, I think I hear somebody pulling in. Man.
What's up, brother? How's it going, bro?
Good, man.